Yesterday, we told you the fate of the US economy and financial markets might rest on the results of the US midterm elections. Now, think about the fight over funding or the brawl over how to manage an economic downturn or even a recession. Well, even as we go to air, the future of the US Senate is still not determined. Earlier, I spoke with Creighton, Washington correspondent for the Australian newspaper and a contributor for Sky News.
Yeah, certainly that's probably true, Ross, I would say. I mean, the reality is the House of Representatives is probably going to fall to Republicans. They'll have a very slim majority there, and it's very unlikely that those Republicans will be passing laws to give the president further stimulus money, for instance, if there were another downturn. But then on the other hand, the US is already so mired in debt. It's you have to ask the question about whether that would be the strategy that they would pursue anyway. Of course, we have much higher interest rates in the US now, so government borrowing is much more expensive. So I think it's really in the US a case of just a wishing and hoping that there is not a recession.
But the reality is it seems to be coming. And if you have a party or a Congress that's split and you can't get the funding, you can't borrow your way out of that recession, the prospects of a hard landing become more real. That has real implications for the world.
Yeah, look, I think that's true. I mean, we've got some inflation figures soon. They're expected to be just as bad as last month's. The jobless rate here increased to 3.7, still, of course, very good. But there's a possibility that trajectory is up. The US economy is slowing, of course. We see that in the auto market, in the housing market. We've still got home loan rates here twice what they were last year, about 7%. So, of course, the economy is slowing. And as you say, if it does fall into a ditch, it's going to be harder for the federal government to rescue it. And that does have implications for Australia. I mean, it seems Western economies generally are slowing right now.
So the other thing also is it also raises the prospects of stagflation, not seen since the 1970s. In other words, you've got rising unemployment, you've got high inflation, you've got very low economic growth. That's the worst of all worlds.
Yes, look, and it's possibly even true in the formerly booming tech sector, as you probably mentioned on the show already, that extraordinary news that Facebook's going to sack 11,000 staff. And I know that's only one company, but that could well be symptomatic of very large cuts throughout the tech sector, whether it be Amazon or Twitter, of course, which Elon Musk has said is losing a fortune. So that sector may well be the canary in the coal mine, and we may well see further cuts.
And so, therefore, even countries such as Australia, where every forecast from Treasury to the Reserve Bank, government, most economists say the soft landing scenario is what happens in Australia. It might get a bit tougher, but it's always going to be the soft landing. There's no guarantee if the United States does land hard.
Well, look, the soft landing, I mean, of course, it's always in the interest of central banks and treasuries to say that there's going to be a soft landing. They will always say that because it's in their political interest. And we know from their forecasts in recent years that they've been woefully wrong. So, I mean, I wouldn't really take too much what they say. I think the best instruction on that question is history. And normally there is a hard landing, especially when you have such a rapid acceleration in official interest rates, like which we haven't seen for decades in the US, and also Australia is seeing the same thing.
In Washington, Creighton, always great to have a chat to you, Adam. Thank you.
Thanks, Ross.